Glory, glory, glory to Jesus. Dear brothers and sisters, our first reading tells us of the story of the widow of Zarephath in the pagan territory. There was a serious famine in this region as a result of prolonged droughts. The prophet had earlier pronounced famine in the land of Israel according to the command of God. And he was led to reside by the brook of Cherith, where birds fed him, and he drank from the brook. As the famine intensified, the brook dried up, and Elijah had to leave for Zarephath, according to the words of God. So at Zarephath, he met this widow, and Elijah requested for water, and in addition, some cake to sate his hunger. In ancient times, it was a tradition, and people were expected to offer hospitality to strangers, to open their doors to them and share their meals with them. This woman, even though she was poor and had very little, barely enough to take care of herself and her family, did the same. She willingly shared her last meal with the prophets, a stranger. She gave her widow's mite. Although she was a pagan, but her action showed her as a woman who had the fear of God and love of neighbor. And because of her extraordinary charity to the man of God, God blessed her and her family. And she never lacked. Indeed, the saying that says, "Givers never lacks," is true. And Frank reminds us that no one has ever become poor by giving. Most times, when you talk about giving to others, most people seem to focus attention on the wealthy people, expecting them to give all the time. But the action of this poor widow teaches us that even the poor are also called to give, not just the rich alone. Some of us, from my own observation, have formed the habit of always receiving and receiving and receiving. And we will never give. And the common anthem is, I don't have enough. I am poor. Driver, cook, gardener, security man and woman, and indeed all those who are employed to work. Let me ask you a question. That's your madam, oga or boss that has been good to you, helping you always, and giving you most things you ask for, and helping your family. What have you given to them? Have you ever bought them any gifts to appreciate them on their birthdays, wedding anniversary, and other special occasions? Or you think your vocation in life is just to receive and receive and receive That cannot be your vocation. There's no one called to receive alone. We are all called to receive and give. Sometimes they say, I don't have. Giving is an attitude. It's not about what you have. It's about your disposition in life. Giving is a culture. It's a character. It's an attitude. I have seen poor people who are generous and they give. The fact that you have does not mean that you will surely give. There are many wealthy men and women who are very stingy. They will never give. They expect you to ask them for something. And when you ask them, they tell you you are disturbing them. So it's not about what you have. It's about an attitude, or the attitude we adopt in life. So if you don't have the attitude of giving, have billions in your account, you will never want to give. You will always have reasons not to give. There are many men and women like that in our society. Maybe we'll have some of them here today. On the day of your own birthday, let me go back to the workers. On the day of your own birthday, you would expect Oga and Madam or your boss to give you something to celebrate your own birthday. On the day of Oga, Madam, and your boss's birthday, you would expect them to give you something to celebrate with them. When will you ever give something to Oga, Madam, and your boss? You should give something. You don't need to buy a big gift, as you may not have the means to do so. Just give something, no matter how small it is. The size of the gift does not matter. What matters is your good intention, your grateful heart, represented in that small gift. We are all called to give. You may not give money, but you can give your time, your talent, the gift of your presence, kind words, encouragement. You can offer people help, and you can offer to help people do some work as your own way of giving to them without expecting anything or any payment in return. Our Pope Emeritus, Benedict XVI, remarked in one of his homilies, nobody is so poor that they cannot donate anything. And Pope St. John Paul II says that nobody is so poor that he has nothing to give. And nobody is so rich that he has nothing to receive. We are all called to give and to receive. Again, in our gospel reading, we encounter another poor widow who went to the temple, to the synagogue, and gave a very big gift to God. Big gift, not in the size of her offering, but because she gave everything she had with her heart. She gave her widow's mite. Widow's mite. Sometimes I hear Catholics and Christians say, I am giving my widow's mite. If only they knew the meaning of this statement, I am sure they wouldn't have been using that statement. Some, ignorantly, have been using it and deceiving themselves and others. Widow's mite is a small contribution that is willingly given and is all one can afford. We saw good examples that are first reading and our gospel reading. Some Christians say, I am giving my widow's mite, when in actual fact, the person can afford to give more than 1,000 times of what he or she has donated or offered. And so, if you are one of those who have been using this statement ignorantly, you now know better. Don't use it again. When you know you can afford more than what you have given. Let me share with you the story of two Christians, a wealthy Christian and a poor Christian. Every Sunday, the rich man would give new notes of 2,000 naira as his offering. The poor Christian would give the sum of 100 naira as his offering. Now I ask you, the rich man and the poor man, who gives more to God? I guess many of you would say, the rich man, of course, he gives 2,000 naira. But before you make your conclusion, follow me. Let us examine how much they earn or receive every month. That will help you to understand and know better who gives more to God. The poor Christian receives the sum of 40,000 naira monthly. Or to put it directly, God blesses the poor Christian with 40,000 naira every month. And in turn, he gives God the sum of 400 naira monthly. On the other hand, the wealthy Christian receives 1 million naira monthly and gives God the sum of 8,000 naira monthly. If the poor man makes the sum of 1 million naira, which would take him 25 months, he would have given God the sum of 10,000 naira. Meanwhile, the rich man makes the sum of 1 million naira monthly and gives God the sum of 8,000 naira with pride. I ask you again, the rich man and the poor man, who gives God more? It calls for examination of conscience. Is the rich man given as much as God is blessing him? The answer is blowing in the wind. Now you understand why Jesus praised the poor widow's offering and did not take notice of the huge amount dropped by the rich people. Because they were given out of their abundance. Talking about offering in church, let me tell you the story of Mrs. Smart. This incident took place during offering in a church service. During the offering, Mrs. Smart was fumbling in her purse for her offering money. Maybe she was looking for the smallest denomination to give on that Sunday. When a large television remote fell out and clattered into the eye. Now the curious church warden bent over to retrieve the remote and whispered and asked the woman, "Do you always carry your remote to church on Sundays?" Mrs. Smart replied, "No, my husband refused to come with me this morning to church. So I figured this was the most evil thing that is legal that I can do to my husband. Legally." My dear mothers and sisters, you now know one of the evil things that is legal that you can do to your husband. Any Sunday, they refuse to follow you to the church. You can also take their phones as well. But don't quote me. My hands are clean. However, before you do it, make sure you separate your offering money from the remote or phone so that it doesn't fall down and embarrass you during Mass. Let those who have ear listen to what I am saying. Brothers and sisters, still on giving, Father John P. Capilli says there are 4 types of giving. The first is shame giving. I must watch what another person is given so as to match what the person is given. The second one is calculated giving. We part with our money with a sense of favors to come. We give because we want to receive something. The third is grudge giving. Many Christians fall into this category. I hate to part with this money, but I will give the money. The final category is thanksgiving. I part with my funds, my money, precisely because God has been so wonderfully generous to me. Each of us fall into one of these categories. The question is, where do you belong? The first, the second, the third, or the fourth? I invite you, my dear brothers and sisters, to join the fourth category, thanksgiving. God has blessed us so much. Let us give also so much to God. Let us cultivate a culture of giving, thanksgiving, giving generously with grateful hearts, bearing in mind that all we are and have are all gifts from God. James chapter 1, verse 17. And so I pray that the good Lord, who is generous and kind to us, may enlarge our hearts, that we may be more generous to ourselves. This we ask through Christ our Lord.